Hello, my friends. Welcome to Ignite Your Wow. I'm Kellen Ann, and I am your host today. This show is all about wow. And normally I talk about sponsors and then I talk about subscribing, but I'm going to talk about that after my guest joins me, Bruce Himmelblau. Hey.
Morning.
So you're my behind the scenes magic maker. And instead of just saying, and this show is sponsored by Blue Sky Video Productions, I thought, let's have Blue Sky Video Productions talk about what he does. And I want to just talk about all the amazing things you do for me and help me with my show and with Candidly Speaking, our other show. And I just want the world to know how great it is to have a producer help you with a live stream. So that's why I wanted you to be here today.
Excellent. Not to mention the fact that your other guest had other commitments and
well, what happened is the time changed. We changed our time, and he's in Brazil.
Okay.
And he's like, "Oh no, that's 9 o'clock. I'll be in bed." I'm like, "Oh well."
Brazil is actually in our time zone.
Okay, not Brazil then. He's in Spain.
Okay, Spain.
He's in Spain. Sorry.
Okay.
I was thinking about going to Brazil.
Okay. Yeah, so it's like 8 or 9 o'clock in Spain.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing I've learned about when we start doing these live streams is I'm learning universal time zones, and in Greenwich Mean Time, which is kind of like London. So we are GMT -6, and you are -8.
Yeah. Phil would like to know who's producing the show. Not me.
So that's great. Let me pull that up. There you go.
There he is. Hi, Phil.
Hi, Phil. Thanks for joining us. And again, there is a challenge to do everything by yourself, which is why your show runs so much smoother than my show.
No, your show, I don't think your show has any problems. But I think someone just starting out, like say I decided to start live streaming by myself, it would be a disaster because I can't do more than one thing. It's nice to have you back there. We could say back there, backstage, and pulling up stuff, and you just make the show go so much smoother. So
even with professionals, we were working with one person who was doing the show themselves, and then you kind of, as you watch the show, you see how they're distracted. They're looking to pull up the next video clip, or they're looking to pull up a website while they're trying to run the show and talk to the guests. And when you have A-list guests on your show, the last thing you want to be is just distracted.
Right. And I get distracted so easily anyway that this is just one less thing I have to worry about. So what are why don't you tell people, like, everybody just thinks I show up and, well, I do. I just show up, but there's so much that goes on behind that I don't think people realize, especially if they haven't done a live show yet. So why don't you talk about, some of those things that that you can help somebody with, and they can, to understand how important what you do.
Okay. Well, first of all, the most important thing about being live is interacting with your people who are watching you and not ignoring you. So we're going to do that real quick with a hi back to Phil and a wave to Eric.
Eric Bam.
And we're
Eric Bam. I'm working on these for you, buddy.
Yeah, so we just mentioned before when you showed me that is one of your cards that wow.
Yeah.
It's kind of the concept behind your show, everything that wows. And I suggested putting bedazzled pants on those, on the logo.
I thought about that. That might be the next design, because he's a work in progress for me, and I just like sending him new stuff every now and then. So I think this is the second or third. Yeah, Phil and I have talked about trying. He does it by himself, and he's come a long way. I'm really excited about how far he's come in his show.
Yeah. So when we start the show, there we go. Pants. I forgot something. Yeah, and that a lot of times I think I was watching one show that they were talking to an attorney, and the guy said, I'll give you $100 if you stand up and show me they're actually wearing pants. And the guy wouldn't stand up. Of course, he may have been just wearing shorts.
Right, right.
So it's just not formal. Because I mean, on the top, I've got my suit jacket, and on the bottom, I've got my shorts on because it's like 88 degrees today in Chicago.
Yeah, it's super warm here too. I wish I got my swimming suit on. Just kidding.
Yeah, wearing a blazer. Actually, yeah, this is kind of a.
You got dressed up for my show.
Yep. Well, I dress up a lot of time because otherwise it'd just be a t-shirt.
Right.
So as far as doing a show and working with a producer, the producer is the one who's doing behind the scenes. And a lot of times is when the guests are talking about a website that they hadn't planned on talking about, or a subject that they had not planned on talking about ahead of time, it's the person behind the scenes, the director, the producer, who is hurriedly looking up the website, pulling it up, and then showing it to the audience so they can see what they're talking about.
And I'll tell you, that makes your guest really excited because they didn't know that you were going to have something like that up, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that's my website. Thank you. Oh yes." So it's a very nice thing. Eric wants to know, how should you promote the live show?
Your core audience, email. If you are on live, offer something such as we've got the what do we have here? Our resource guide. So if you go there, and I have a playlist that you can download and get more information about doing your live streams. And with that, I can get their email. And when they join my email list, I send out notifications on my show. And also that helps you keep in front of your prospects, because it takes 15 touches before you actually can close a sale. And there's like a small percentage on 1 or 2 or 3 or even 5 to 10, but you always want to stay in contact with your audience and with your prospects and with the people you want to do business with. And by doing a live stream, that is one of the key things of offering content, sharing value, and that they can really get something out of who you are and what you do. And so to promote your show, sending out a weekly email, not just a newsletter, include who your guests are, especially if your guest resonates with your audience. So if you do a show as part of a business, you can have, like we do the business show, that have people talking about marketing, sales, finance, and in some cases even Bitcoin. So you're attracting new audience as well as engaging your old audience. So email list is number 1. Social media is number 2. Are you growing your audience on Facebook? Are you growing your audience on LinkedIn, on YouTube, Pinterest, Instagram?
Oh, there's so many.
TikTok, Snapchat. And again, it's hard to be everywhere, everything to everybody. So you can choose 3 core pieces. When we do our live streams, we're streaming out to Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube.
And I'm on LinkedIn today, right?
Yes.
That's exciting.
We're actually streaming this live to my LinkedIn page.
Yay.
And for those who are joining us for the first time on my LinkedIn page, we're streaming this also to Cards That Wow on Facebook and YouTube.
We've got a little plug there for the penalty box.
Well, actually, Wednesdays at 2. And actually, I have the co-host of Penalty Box on my show on Thursday.
Ooh.
The one that isn't Eric Bam.
You mean the one that said pants? He forgot something?
Yeah, that was it. So yeah, Tim is going to be my guest, and we're talking about growing your audience, engaging your audience, and building a relationship with your clients and with your prospects. Because that's another thing that you do with live stream. You're growing that know, like, and trust. It's one of the fastest way that people get to know who you are, especially if you are authentic on your live streams.
Right.
I mean, there's sometimes you can create a character and be that character, but it's hard to keep that character up.
Yeah, you couldn't replicate this goofiness, right?
Yep. And a lot of times, and you want to engage with your host.
Mhm.
So, and if you're hosting the show, engage with your guest and talk about what they want to talk about. And again, if you want to take those hard hitting questions, you can probably like, oh, I've never been asked that before. But then again, you're kind of in that role. You're kind of playing the role of an interviewer
Mhm.
as opposed to carrying on a conversation.
Yeah, my shows seem to be more conversational, and I sometimes, I usually read the book of whomever is on my show, and I'll say, "Oh, I'm gonna ask about that." But a lot of times it goes off on tangents, and I think they have a lot of fun just having the conversation. Um, so what else? Wait,
But of
Phil.
course, you also want to keep your audience in mind too, because if you get in too much of a conversation, we did a pilot show for one of the people I'm going to be producing a show for,
Mhm.
and his guests pretty much took over the show because they were
Yeah,
close friends, and it wasn't really a show. It was
right.
more of a inside joke or
Mhm.
inside conversation, and it didn't really engage the audience at all.
Right.
And so when you're not engaging the audience will tune out.
No, exactly. So, yeah, I try to have, interesting guests. Like today's guest would have been great, but I think we might have to go back to a morning show just to have him because he's definitely someone that would benefit, the viewers. But yeah, I'm having fun. I've gotten a lot of my guests on Clubhouse,
Mhm.
and I met some really interesting people there. So that's been interesting. So how do you like to get guests for your show?
I go through my LinkedIn profiles
Hmm.
and find people there. Clubhouse is another option. Actually, I
Hmm.
was on Clubhouse yesterday, tuning into a room where they're talking about monetizing your speaking engagements.
Hmm.
And I was in the room for about 5 or 10 minutes, and they never got to the subject. It was more like, please invite more people to the room. And here are the people who are up on stage, and they're so fantastic, and we're such wonderful people. And
Yeah.
there was no content at all. It was more like I know, like a Jolly Fester type thing.
Right. Yeah, and I've been going to the smaller rooms. The big rooms, just there's no reason, there's no point. It's a waste of time. But the smaller rooms, like I don't know how I ended up in a room with Kevin Montgomery. I think did I tell you about him?
No,
He's a singer-songwriter and he's well known. And he has this thing called the campfire, the music campfire every Sunday in Clubhouse. And he brings on all these great musicians, old and new. And I mean, I if you guys want to listen to some great music, it's 2 o'clock Pacific time. And it's just, I try to ping people in, but I know Sundays everybody's
yep.
busy, relaxing and not computering. But it's really a great show, and you get to hear new talent. Like I think Gary Talent from Springsteen's E Street Band was there once, and just oldies but goodies too. So I just thought I'd give him a little plug there. Yeah, there he
Yeah,
is.
so as you saw my eyes darting around from
I did. I'm like, wait, is he writing a
monitor to
note for
monitor,
Sue? Or
it's like, okay, so if I were behind the scenes, you would not see my eyes darting around.
right, right, right. But
And so here's
he's
Kevin
cool.
Montgomery, and Kevin Montgomery's on his website.
Yeah. And right now he's got a new album coming out, and some other people, they have their albums coming out, and I don't know. I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, but it was just that's like my favorite room right now because I can sit and work and make Eric's pizza cards and just listen to great music. And like they sing live and they play the piano and they play the violin and just great stuff. So but let's get back to you.
And then actually, back to me. So I guess I was about to say is a way to get guests and a way to be engaging is find people who are interesting, but
Mhm.
also have, I guess, in some words, an agenda.
Mhm.
You just mentioned that Kevin has a new album coming out. So
Mhm.
the fact that he has a new album coming out, he wants to get as much exposure as possible so that he will actually appear on a number of shows.
Mhm.
And if no one's really asking him to appear, if you come out and say, well, I've been following you on Clubhouse, I found your music really interesting. I do a live stream show. Would you like to be on my show?
Check.
And
I did that. because I'm like, I really want him on the show just because he's great. He's amazing. So hopefully,
And you're not asking him out of the blue. You're actually establishing some sort of rapport. You're
yeah.
actually some sort of credibility, and you're approaching him with content that he's willing to share.
Right. And I waited till like he acknowledges me in the rooms and says hello and things like that too. So that's a big deal. I mean, like you said, it's just like the LinkedIn people that send you a connect request and then like immediately pitch whatever they're selling.
Yep.
It's just, it's the same concept.
Yeah, I was in a room yesterday talking about LinkedIn on Clubhouse, and I connected with them through Clubhouse, and then I got a LinkedIn connection from one of them. And I thought about, well, should I immediately accept? And I just haven't had time to actually go back into LinkedIn and say, okay, let's connect. But also, when you are connecting with people, and like I said, I connect with a lot of people on LinkedIn to find guests for my show, is you want to offer what's in it for them. And as opposed to just say, let's connect on LinkedIn, and then you don't know why you actually like LinkedIn. It's because we met once and now let's connect.
Right. I make sure they're not relevant, but either something that I can help them with, not necessarily can they help me with something. Yeah, there's a couple times, I don't, even from the beginning, I wasn't just accept everybody's friend on LinkedIn because that was a business thing. And it's also a referral thing. So if I connect with this person, I don't really know them, then they do something weird to somebody on my connections, then, you're kind of the one that like recommended them. And I've always been very careful with that. So I think I'm almost to the 500 plus mark on LinkedIn, which it's taken a year, but I'm almost going to be there. And then nobody will know after that, right? Because once you get to 500, it's 500 or more.
Unless you've got the pro version, I think they can tell you exactly how many. But again, LinkedIn is a one platform I look at for quality as opposed to quantity. On Twitter, I'm looking for numbers. On YouTube, I'm looking for numbers. On LinkedIn, I'm looking for quality.
Right. Yeah, I definitely quality on LinkedIn. They're business professionals. And, when I was working with the registry, I got great contacts for, the IG Live that I was doing for a little bit. And that was really, those were good interviews. So, yeah. And it depends on what I want to talk about, because like I think next month we have kind of like a crime theme month here. We got a retired New York homicide detective. We got we had the accidental gangster. Then one of his friends, he's going to be on the show, and then just kind of some policey things. So it's gonna be interesting. We got an unsolved crime that we're trying to help this girl and her family solve. So even a little bit, one person could look at this and say, "Oh, I know something." You never know. And then we got DA Michaels. Oh, wait, that's on Candidly Speaking. But anyway, yes, I got kind of a crime show, police, legal.
And as long as you stay on brand in most cases, but your kind of brand is all over the place. It's with WOW.
Yeah.
It's pretty much open.
Right.
So although with my show talks about business and marketing, you can. I'm actually there's this one director who just won an Academy Award for short documentary, but he's using a unique way of distributing his film. And so even though that may be a film interview, the way he's distributing his film is on a business side, because he's actually using video games to his movie, which is unique.
Yeah. Now, Ron won't say anything, but he's watching right now. Hi, Ron.
Yep. So again, hi, guys. 5 emojis, 5 fires. And then hi, Missy.
Hey, Missy. And JR. I know, I feel like I've been off of social media for a while. Like I haven't been as active as I have been in the past, but I'm kind of catching up on things. So, okay. So what are, say, your top 3 things to look for in a producer, a live stream producer?
Organization, connections, because in most cases, your producer is the one who's going to get the guest as opposed to the host. Although in your case,
you mean you should be doing that for me?
I should be doing that for you.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, so the producer is the one who actually runs the show, and the host is the one who lends credence and personality to the show.
And charisma.
And charisma. I mean, sometimes you'll see the producer or the host will call out the producer during the show. Like if you remember, and this was years ago, the Regis and Kathy Lee or Kelly
Gelman.
show. Yeah. So the Regis show, they used to call out, what's his name again?
Gelman?
Gelman. Yep. So Gelman was a producer of the show. Gelman is the person who arranged for the guests. Gelman is the one who did the pre-interview of the guests. Like, okay, why is this guest pertinent to this show? And what kind of questions should we be asking? A lot of times all I'll do is when I first book a guest, I'll spend 10, 15 minutes ahead, like days ahead of the show, doing a pre-interview.
Like a discovery call kind of thing?
Yep. Discovering what subjects they're talking about. Maybe there's something that they've never posted before, or something that's new, something that's coming up.
Well, Penalty Box does that too. They find something that they shock their guests. Like,
Yep.
they're like, how did you find out about that?
Well, that's good for the producer, but then you're getting that content from the guest, as opposed to what Tim and Eric are doing is scouring the internet and I think it was dark web for that information.
I don't even know how to get to the dark web. Maybe I should have you start scouring for me. I'm not utilizing you to the fullest.
And so again, that's one thing, to look into a producer, someone who's organized, someone who's connected, and who can find the guests who are relevant to your show and to your guests.
Yeah, like you said, mine's it's wow. If you wow me, you're on my show. That's why you're on my show, because you actually wow me.
Thanks.
Like, really.
You know, that I think when we first met, people used to say I was the smartest guy in the room. But the thing is, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
But you didn't leave.
But yeah, so there are people in the room who are smarter than I am in different areas.
Right. I think all of us have an expertise of, and that's why we all learn so much from each other and are becoming so successful together.
Yep.
So what are you working on right now? I know you had your 5-day live challenge.
Go live in 5.
So I have some people from my Write That Book masterclass that are looking to, they're thinking we need to go live. And is there something that you have to offer them that they can, maybe get something from you, and then maybe, talk about using you? How would that happen?
First is, why do you want to go live? And actually, I did some research ahead of it. So here is one of the things I pulled this up. Build trust with prospective buyers.
Mm-hmm.
So by doing a live stream show, you're getting that know, like, and trust. People get to know you, like you, and trust you because of the content you're giving them. And it's easier for you to follow up with them once they know who you are. Because if you let's say you call them and so, hi, this is Bruce. I'd like to talk to Jim. And you're going through a gatekeeper. And the gatekeeper doesn't know who you are. So she says, oh, well, it's about, well, Jim's expecting my call. We set up this ahead of time. So she then goes to Jim and says, yeah, put the call through, because they built up that trust, built up that know. And by doing the live stream, you're offering them information, and you actually can get information like through your mailing list by mentioning the live stream kit or the resource page, but also I've got my live stream kit.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
which is just I did a show on this last week about equipment to get when you're doing a live stream. But
that's the link that you send me almost monthly, because I say, what's that link again for me? Right?
Yep. And then there's the other link that I'm looking for. It's not the resource link. It is my my playbook link. Mm-hmm. And it may be on my page, but it is basically you can get there actually through. You can get everything that I'm offering through my resource page, which is this one.
Okay.
But again, building that trust level, and secondly, you bridge the gap between physical and digital worlds. So the fact that you're interacting with people from Spain, I'm interacting with people from London, I'm interacting with people from California.
Now that is a country in its own right.
Yeah. And so the fact that before I started doing live streaming, when I was pretty much a video production company doing on-location productions, I had a handful of clients who would fly me around the country to do the shoots. But that was a small portion of my client. Most of my clients were located in the Chicago area, and I would have to drive to them. And in some cases, it would be half an hour. Some cases, it would be like an hour drive to get to locations. Now with this one, we talked maybe 5 minutes before the show and got you on, and all of a sudden we closed that gap within 2 minutes. And so a lot of times that we're showing up for these meetings, we're showing up for the meetings a minute ahead of the meeting. And sometimes, even if you're late, you're on time.
I'm on time a lot.
What is I guess in the real world, if you're 15 minutes early, you're late.
True.
But
there's no such thing as fashionably late anymore.
Right. But on a Zoom meeting, you're 2 minutes early. The host hasn't even let you in yet because the meeting hasn't started yet. And then until you're waiting in that waiting room, in that green room, and then the meeting starts and they click the button and everybody comes to the meeting at the same time. So
now I was waiting in the room, but I was in the wrong room. See, that's another good thing about having a producer. They can send you a message and say, "No, that's not the right room. Go to this room."
Yep, that was a link from last week's show that I accidentally sent you. And so then when we rescheduled this show, you still had the old link.
Yeah.
So when I rescheduled this show, I used a new link.
Yeah, well, at least I remembered today. I don't know. I get to making cards. In my defense, I go in another world and I'm like, oh my God, wait. Michelle has to call me sometimes. We're going live in 2 minutes. Uh-oh. Yep. Okay, here's
another is creating an atmosphere of real-time brand engagement. So you talked about the live performance with Kevin. There's a lot of performers who can't get into live venues anymore, who want to do live performances and interact with their audience and with their fans in real time, as opposed to just watching a video of a concert that may have been recorded a week ago or a year ago or 10 years ago.
I think that's why his clubhouse room is growing so fast. It's an opportunity for someone who's not heard to be heard by some pretty big people, and it's just great. It's great entertainment. I mean, I play the violin, but not that I'm going to play in that room. But I just sit there. I mean, I have really nothing to do with the music world, but I just sit there and enjoy it. And I'm going to send you guys I'm going to ding you guys.
Yeah, and even right now, the brand engagement is talking about Ron Goodman. It's amazing.
I love Ron.
And anything.
I love Ron.
Yeah. So again, if you're 15 minutes late, if you're 5 minutes early, you're 5 minutes late.
Wait, if you're 15 minutes early, you're 5 minutes late. Explain.
So, I guess if you're going for a live stream, then I want you to show up 20 minutes ahead of time.
I know. When am I supposed to show up?
I think if you're doing a live show with someone brand new who's never tried out the platform before, and you haven't had a chance to do a test run, you want them on the show at least 15 minutes ahead of time, so you can make sure that they have the right link, to make sure
and
the microphone
and their camera.
Yeah, make sure their microphone is correct. Even to make sure their internet connection is correct. A lot of times, these computers will have a default Wi-Fi connection, which is like a 2.4 megahertz, which is really only minimal if you're doing live streaming. You want to be on the 5 megahertz or even better on the Ethernet, which is hardwired, because when you're hardwired in, you're not going to get that interruption of Wi-Fi. And so you want to make sure your guests have a clear signal, because a lot of times, even on our shows, they've come on with their iPad, and the iPad was on Wi-Fi, and the iPad was situated vertically, like this. So, I mean, in this situation right now, where we have the 2 people on camera, is a vertical atmosphere. But if you have 3 people on camera, you want to be able to actually have the horizontal image as well.
Right.
And again, and so you want to be able to test out your audio, test out your video, test out your connections ahead of time. And if you've never done this before, you really can't do that in 2 minutes.
No, you're right. Well, we had remember we had a problem on Candidly where I swear our guest, it looked like she was coming to us from Guantanamo Bay. It looked like it was a third world country connection. And I was so bummed because she's such an interesting, and it was such a great lady, but I don't think anybody heard half of the stuff. So that was really disappointing for me. So
another reason, reduce unforeseen costs by doing live streaming. Because when you're doing a live stream, if it's one directional, where you're actually doing a show by yourself, just hosting content, you can actually become a keynote speaker in your own right and offer that content without having to travel around the country.
Very good.
Or if you want to meet up with somebody in an interview situation, as opposed to having to fly out to their location or drive out to the location, you're in your office, you've got your setup all set, and all you need to do is hit that go live button.
It's a lot more efficient. Not even just cost saving, it's efficient. Okay, any more?
Those are my top 4. There's probably more. Again, interacting with the audience is important. It's even better if the audience could ask questions as opposed to just make comments. Because a lot of comments are nice and engaging with it, which is kind of giving the audience a voice. And you don't necessarily have to pull up every single comment from your audience. And also you don't have to address every single question. But by being an audience member of a show, is if you've got questions, you need to ask them live, because otherwise you really don't get that direct response. You can maybe ask a question on a replay, and if that guest actually comes back to the show to answer that question, which is always a great idea, because that way you're engaging with the audience. But very rarely will the guest come back to answer a question from a show that they did maybe a month or a year ago.
Right. Yeah, I like to, I always forget to put it in my little promo things, bring your questions for, I did do that for a Joe Soto interview, and that one was good because people did show up and they were asking lots of questions. That was a fun show.
Yep.
I felt that one was successful. So, so I want to thank you for being here. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you wish I had?
When's your show? When's my next show? How to hire me? How to reach me? Again,
I thought I did that. So how do people reach out to you to hire you?
Well, actually, I guess BSVP TV is who I am across most of my social media. If you don't have my email address, contact at bsvp.com.
Okay.
And DM me on Facebook. I answer my DMs. You can DM me on Twitter. I think although with Twitter, I need to follow you back, and I'll follow you back. Okay. And connect with me on LinkedIn.
I think everybody should subscribe to your and my YouTube channels. Follow us on all of our social medias. And I actually have a not a contest, but just a Mother's Day promo. So I've been making these Mother's Day frames like this. So it's the mom plus however many children. This was for an only child, a girl, but I just finished one for a mom and triplets, which is kind of fun. And if you subscribed and comment, if you comment and subscribe on my YouTube channel and my Facebook, and you like my Facebook page and comment, then you will be entered to win a free custom frame. And it doesn't have to be Mother's Day, but that's just what I'm doing right now. But if that's what you want is a Mother's Day frame, that's what you will win. So subscribe and share today. Was that confusing, Bruce? That was really confusing, wasn't it?
So I think you just need to go to Cards That Wow on YouTube and Facebook.
Yes. Subscribe, like, comment.
And the information is on your Facebook page.
Yes. Yep. Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to build my YouTube because I'm kind of lagging in that right now.
The more people who subscribe, the more notifications, and I have definitely turned notifications on.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I do.
Yeah.
I do. My
for the people watching you today, turn notifications on so that they get notified.
Yeah. So, and hopefully you liked what you saw today, share it out. Let some other people gain from Bruce's amazing knowledge. Thank you for being a sponsor and my producer. And thank you for your time today, since we had a last minute cancellation. But our lemon is everybody else's lemonade, because everybody got to hear all your great information.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me. And I look forward to your show tomorrow night called Candidly Speaking with Shell and Kel.
Yep. And we have Tamara Barber, who is an Extreme Teen. It's Extreme Team Inc., but she's a coach, and she does this amazing work with teenagers, and I can't wait for everybody to hear about that.
Great.
All righty. Well, thanks, everybody. I hope you all have a great day, and we will see you next week.
Thanks. And again, we'll put all the information in the show notes.
Yep.
Thanks. Bye.